that's one of the key things with coaching in general is like having someone who can put themselves in your shoes to an extent, so they can understand like what the difficulties are that you might be going through.
My job as a coach for a lot of people, especially in the early stages with sort of major technical things, isn't telling them what they need to do. That's easy. I know the basics. I can give each person the basics, no problem. It's working out how they best need to hear it. The people who get coaching but then go away and practice it, which is inevitably a lot cheaper than just paying for coaching sessions, if anyone's listening about that, they are the people that improve.
Welcome back to the Getting a Grip podcast. How are we doing, Merlin?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It's the end of the season, so not much to watch in terms of tennis, but yeah, still lots to talk about.
Yeah, we're trying to find talking points, and Kyrgios has provided us with one this week. So it's been the ATP end of season coach awards, amongst whatever all the other awards are and stuff. And obviously you got the normal kind of coaches that you'd expect to be on there, like Ferrero with Alcaraz and Casper Ruud. I think it's his dad. A few other top coaches, and then of course Kyrgios pipes up with a little bit of banter, or is it kind of semi-serious? So he's trying to prove a point, saying that he should get Coach of the Year for coaching himself to the Wimbledon final. So based on that, we are going to talk about how much of a difference coaching actually makes. It's quite a broad topic, but we kind of talk about like our experiences and like, you know, top level versus kind of grassroots level. Yeah, so these top guys, obviously, they have like a whole team around them, don't they? So they often have, well, they'll find a hitting partner of some sort, and then you'll find the coach is kind of usually stood kind of like next to them, or, you know, from like a third person perspective, rather than what you might have, I don't know, at like normal club level where the coaches might actually be hitting with the player and trying to coach them at the same time. Obviously these guys at the top level have got money to employ like numerous coaches as well, and have this team go around with them, and they're getting coached like every day. But it's how much coaching they're actually getting once you get to that top level is kind of, I don't know, it's an interesting point, I suppose, because once you've got to that top level, does it become more of just like a mental thing? How much input are these coaches actually having in terms of like changing their game? I suppose you could look at even, well, if you want to side with like how important coaches are, then you've got even the top players like Rafa, Novak, Roger, like have tweaked their game even when they're like right at the top. So like Roger, well, I mean, he changed his racket, but obviously he would have been having discussions up to that point with coaches and talking about, you know, consistency with the backhand. And then you get, obviously when Nadal comes along, that really impacts the effectiveness of his backhand, for example. And then him changing his style, especially in the latter years where he ended up kind of like trying to take the ball early. And when he had that incredible season in 2017, like that was what, like one of the reasons he had so much success was like his taking the ball early on the backhand and using it more as a weapon. So, you know, that's probably something that has come about through, you know, dialogue with coaches and stuff like that. I don't know kind of how you see it at the top level, kind of what impact coaches are having.
I think we have to think of them slightly differently compared to the bottom level, and the main place that I would say that that's the case is when we're talking about management of a player. So we maybe need to think about coaches at that top level less as someone who's coaching technique, whilst they are still there to do that sort of job. And I'll go through the reasons why in a second. I think we need to think about that. They're sort of like a player manager in a semi-serious sort of way. It's quite a team around you doing the analysis of other players for you and bringing the things that they think that you need to work on in order to tackle that player. I can't speak for Kyrgios. Something tells me he probably doesn't do a lot of that analysis, even though he's saying he coaches himself. But part of the coach's job is working out, okay, I've got to play this guy next. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? What do I go for? What do I avoid? What am I going to be able to employ here that will make me win this match? And I think that's a key part of coaching, less so that sort of technical aspect, because let's face it, to be the top 50, 100. To be honest, to be the top 500 in the world, you've got to have a pretty faultless game to get to that level.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely becomes more of a like a tactical or even like a mental thing at that top level. Like, we use
Yeah,
Andy as an example when he brought in Ivan Lendl and like,
yeah,
how much kind of, like Ivan Lendl's not going to be coaching him technique or anything because he was almost from like a different era of tennis as well.
yeah,
So it was
yeah, exactly.
more on the mental side of things to have someone in your corner that has been in those tough moments, I guess, and you can empathize with you. I
Mm,
guess that's one of the key things with coaching in general is like having someone who can put themselves in your shoes to an extent, so they can understand like what the difficulties
mm,
are that you might be going through. And I guess as you play more, it becomes more difficult
yeah.
to help those kind of, I don't know, more beginner players because it's like you're much further down the line, and trying to think back to the problems that you had when you were that level becomes more difficult. I don't know what you found with your coaching, but I seem to kind of find that a bit more these days. I know you always have the coach, like, a few basic coaching points that that kind of generally help that level, but like really trying to think about what their kind of problems are is quite difficult once you're further down the track after a good few years of playing.
Yeah, everything becomes less and less obvious. So the better a player gets, the more fine these tweaks are. And it's not going to be much. It might be like a little extra wrist lag or, a slightly higher elbow position before a serve, or all of these little tiny, tiny things that you've got to be you've got to be coaching quite a lot in order to see these things. And you've got to be constantly doing like continual development to work out all of these things as well. Like some things you completely forget about over the course of like coaching. So you need to be constantly reminded as well, because you don't see those things as obviously as you do say, oh, they're not doing a ready position. Well, anyone can see that because they're not bouncing on their toes. Then there's no width to their legs or anything like that. Um, but I think what it comes down to, and at both levels as well, like whether we're talking right at the bottom or right at the top, um, is you need that outside perspective. And I think tennis is such a technical sport, so within yourself that you can't see what you're doing. You can't always see the impact it's having on the game either. So to step back and have a bit of perspective, not only of how you're hitting a ball, but what you're doing with these balls when you're playing a match. That's something that you need someone who has been in those scenarios before and has experience with that side of things as well, because they'll link it back and they'll see these pathways through a match unfold. Some players do that themselves and they do it very well. Not again, funny enough, I'm not entirely sure Kyrgios is that guy. I think Kyrgios is just a wonderfully talented tennis player, and I think he's very good at thinking on his feet. Whereas if I'm talking about someone who can plan and see things very clearly throughout a match, that's Andy Murray. Andy Murray knows how to sculpt something. He has this good ability to see things outside of himself, even if he can be a little bit, a little over emotional sometimes, which may have been his downfall to be in the early days.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know how much coaching Kyrgios actually had. Like, he must have
Mm.
had he must have had like a few coaches along the line. I mean, obviously, I don't know how difficult he would have been to deal with as a kid. So that might have kind of given each coach a bit of a short shelf life, but
Short-term contracts. Short-term contracts.
short 0 hours contracts.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, I'll give you an hourly rate. That's as good as I'm gonna get. Sorry, mate.
I can only commit to an hour. We'll see after that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see how you feel after an hour with me. You won't want to coach ever again after that. But yeah, I think if I think about my own kind of like journey just as a player, I didn't have much coaching at all. Like when I was younger, I mainly just learned from like watching on TV and trying to like figure it out myself, which was hugely frustrating, should I say?
Mm,
But also led me to have like not well. Obviously, there's not one technique, right? But there are like points that you kind of need to hit with your technique as like a general point,
yeah.
regardless of who you are. And I feel like it definitely slowed down my progress, not having someone there to give you that kind of feedback and make that learning process a bit quicker, I think, more than anything else. And then when I have had coaching like in recent years, kind of noticed like a much bigger difference. That might also be because I understand my body a bit better as well. Like, you know, what you can understand what the coach is trying to tell you. When you're younger, like really young, starting out, it's kind of you're just trying to give them like a few kind of external cues or whatever, or you know, to get them thinking or feeling how it should be, rather than, you know, being technical or anything. But and then as you get older, you sort of understand your body a little bit better, and when you're talking with a coach, and especially if you've played a bit, you can kind of, I don't know, you can understand what they're kind of getting you to do almost, and I found it made that process a bit quicker for me. And then it made me wish that I'd had a bit more of that when I was a little bit younger, because it would have sped up that process. You're kind of, I don't know, your journey's been a bit different, right? You've started a lot later than me and probably had more coaching than me. I don't know how you've kind of found that process. It's kind of like a contrast to me, I guess.
I mean, I started when I was 16, and I pretty much started straight in with like hours of coaching in a week. And I was doing that for probably quite a few years because I wanted to get. I started to realize how much I enjoyed it. And the problem for me is when I know I enjoy something, I have to get good at it, because otherwise it frustrates me too much. So I was keen on getting a lot of coaching, and I was in a fortunate position where I could get a lot of coaching. And this is one thing that a lot of people do underestimate when it comes to tennis. It's like, okay, at the top level, you're earning a nice wage in terms of prize money and sponsorships. You can afford to pay someone to be your coach. Go down to that lower level, and a lot of people do get locked out of tennis because the cost of coaching is so much more. And again, it depends whether we're talking about group coaching or sort of one-on-ones. I did a little bit both, but I was mostly going through sort of one-on-ones working with a coach in order to get better. I think I learned pretty fast in terms of 16. Like, it's not a very developmental age to come through. Like, you know, sort of within 5 years, I was able to play at a very decent level. I think that sort of thing makes a difference because you've had so much outside perspective and so much time on court with someone. But to be quite honest, if I were to look back now, I probably didn't need as much one-to-one coaching. What I probably needed was more hours on court. So I probably could have avoided spending so much money, you could say, which I don't regret, of course. But you could avoid doing that and instead invest time on court, whether that's hitting with someone or, even better, playing matches. And that sort of thing would have helped me develop probably even faster than I did. It's hard to know. It's hard to know and to look back from that outside perspective on how the journey goes. But yeah, for sure, it's a different journey.
Yeah, you can never compare there's only one you, so you can never know like what it would be like if you went down an alternative route. But yeah. I think again, it's like links into that whole like number of hours as well, doesn't it? I don't know, 10,000 hours or whatever. Although that kind of varies from sport to sport. But and having that like purposeful practice as well when you do practice. So like if you've had some coaching points given to you, it's then trying to like think about those and implement those in like practice, and then obviously get some like match practice and that sort of thing. But yeah, like sometimes it's a mixture of the feedback from the coach and also you kind of feeling out what sort of works for you as well.
It's working it out, yeah, exactly. It's processing what you've heard and what you may have felt or what you're being showed. Some coaches now use the sort of video recording to help aid what they're doing as well, because to sort of show you and point out the parts, maybe you'll get a sense of that feel. But yeah, exactly right. You know, you need to get that feedback and process it through, because otherwise, yeah, you can hear it all you want, but if you don't start to actually use it and work on it and practice it, it's not going to improve.
Yeah, I remember when I had some coaching and with that with my Italian coach, and he when I saw videos of like my forehand and stuff, it kind of he would show me after like we'd done a drill or whatever, and it would kind of help me kind of realize what I'm doing, because then that gave me that, you know, that third person perspective. I think that helped me quite a lot actually, in terms of like, I didn't realize I was doing that thing or whatever, and it's like, okay, I can change it by doing this, and that also made a big difference. So like, yeah, technology can also play a big role, especially in this day and age, in helping that coaching process and speeding up that improvement?
Well, in terms of technical ability, and it's a general consensus that this is the case. So this isn't me talking out of my proverbial buttocks, as it were. But tennis is probably the hardest sport in terms of technical ability in the world, and a lot of people agree with that. There are some sports that compete with it very well. I'm sure there are. But in terms of technical ability, all the variety of shots and movement and all these different things, not a lot comes close to it. Hence where you need that outside perspective, hence where you need some tuition, because you can watch all the videos you want and have it said all the time to you. But, you need someone who is good at articulating it. I actually find myself, my job as a coach for a lot of people, especially in the early stages with sort of major technical things, isn't telling them what they need to do. That's easy. I know the basics. I can give each person the basics, no problem. It's working out how they best need to hear it and how they best need to practice it. Got lots of different learning types in the world, and teaching it all one way is never going to work for everyone. So you do have to adapt quite well to each player. And I think that goes at the top as well. I think some players get on with, sort of ex-pros turned coaches because maybe their styles matched, maybe the position in their careers matched, and they've got that sort of common ground to work on. Whereas at the lower level, it's very much a working out sort of game to work out how best to help this person.
Yeah, that's another thing, isn't it? Like, it's because everyone's so different. It's hard. Yeah, again, this makes it hard to know like how much of an impact a coach has, because it's as much of like especially as you get to a higher level, a mix of like personalities and getting along as like a fundamental. I mean, it sounds basic, but it is like you're going to spend a lot of time with this person, and you got to be comfortable with each other in order to then have that trust and have that dialogue. And then,
it's that trust. Yeah.
It's so it's again, everyone's so different. It's like one coach might work well for one particular player, but then be like of no use to another player. So it's again, there's so many variables that come into it. It's hard to know how much of an impact a coach has, but for sure, I would say like for 99% of people, you do need a coach at some point along the line, because coaching yourself is like, admirable as that is
it's tough.
It's
very tough.
It's definitely a slower process, I would say, especially in terms of that feedback.
It's interesting you say that, actually, because there was a study that was done a few years ago. As the eternal researcher, of course, I'm aware of this. But there was a study done a few years ago when they had three groups and they were all learning tennis. And out of these three groups, one was coaching themselves. They were just playing. They were given the court time. They were given the equipment. Have a go. One group was only coached for 6 weeks. So it's a 6-week period for all of them. One group was only coached, and one group was both coached and had free play in equal measure of time, all filling the same amount of time for each group. Who do you think did the best, Ben?
Well,
at the end of that 6 weeks.
6 weeks is probably not long enough, but I won't shoot it down too much. I would probably say based on what we said, I'm trying to be smart about it. Coaching and free play. That's what I'd go with.
Absolutely, yeah. So the people who get coaching, but then go away and practice it, which is inevitably a lot cheaper than just paying for coaching sessions, if anyone's listening about that, they are the people that improve. And it was actually found that whilst the people who were only coached still improved, the difference in improvement was almost double that of the group that was only coached for the group that was both practicing it and being coached over the same time frame. You could argue about different types of people, maybe it was inconsistent, but these are quite large group sizes. Obviously, the group that didn't do so well out of that 6 weeks was the group that was not coached at all. So the nice thing about that study was it validated that coaching is a necessary and useful thing, and that we're not all charlatans just out to get your money. But it also showed that our job is not to just take your money and shout at you and give you instructions and stuff like that. It's working out with you the best way to improve. which really, if you think about it, it's just common sense.
Yeah, it's that mixture between structure and unstructured play, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
which I feel like if you start, let's say as you starting at a very young age, I feel like you need more of that unstructured play at the start, and then as
yep,
you go along, it kind of shifts a bit more towards that coaching and a bit more structure in terms of that, I don't know, that balance between the two. As you start to kind of like, understand your body a bit, and like then that dialogue becomes more useful with that coach as you, like we were talking
yeah.
about before, understand your body a bit better and how the movements work and like how you can change things. So yeah, that's quite interesting actually. Yeah, it's having time to think for yourself, and then having that time where you've got that outside perspective. So yeah, that makes sense to me. There we go. Don't need as much coaching as you maybe think. I don't know what. Do you know how many hours and stuff that did they tell you how many hours they were doing like per week within that?
I think they were meant to be doing between like sort of like 5, 6 hours a week. So these people were getting about 3 hours a week and then 3 hours of free play or so. It was something along those lines. I can't remember the exact details. Um, I'll try and find that study, drop the link below the video as well if anyone's interested. But um, yeah, regardless of the results of that study, I think it's very clear that um, people, for example, as well, a lot of people are quite busy. You wouldn't necessarily get 3 hours of coaching and 3 hours of free play all in one week. But the principle is still there. Say you got 1 hour of coaching and 1 hour of free play, that is going to be infinitely better. And it's half the price of getting 2 hours of coaching if you've got that free time. And obviously, as we very well know, coaching is a very expensive thing in tennis because we are, dare I say it, this feels a bit flag wavy, but we are very specialized in what we do. So, yes, the rate of pay is higher than in some other jobs and in some other coaching jobs. Um, but at the same time, it is obviously worth it once you get a coach who, and I would put us under that umbrella, who actually understands how best to help a person improve rather than it's more like being a facilitator. You're not really you're teaching, but you're also guiding someone's practice. You've got to think of it more like learning a musical instrument. I would actually say tennis is quite similar in that regard because they're both very highly technical things. Learning an instrument, all these fine-tuned little motor skills that you have to be able to do. You probably have 1 hour of teaching a week, and then someone goes away and spends like 20 hours of practice in a week. The people who are really good with musical instruments, they just practice and practice and practice. It's the same in tennis. Time on court, nothing is a substitute for time on court.
Yeah, I also feel like you're like a mentor as well, because like especially in tennis, it's so easy to like beat yourself up about things and get so frustrated. Like, I mean, I find it like almost every time. Like, it doesn't matter what level you get to, and you almost part of it is being that kind of mentor where you can still give them credit for things they've done well and like try and balance that out a little bit rather than just them constantly like getting frustrated or beating themselves up about things. So it is like a multifaceted thing, and it does, obviously you do have to go through like qualifications and stuff to get to a certain level and get a certain level of experience as well in order to actually be useful, I suppose, because there's so much that goes into it that you can't replace just time like learning about the game and like techniques and all the stuff that goes into it to actually provide value to people.
Say we went down the summary route, because we've covered quite a lot here. This is a meaty discussion. Say we went down the summary route of whether someone, this is answering Kyrgios's question effectively. Do you think someone can be successful without coaching, outside coaching?
No, I don't think so.
I agree with you. And as much as I hate saying this, because I think she gets too much pressure put on her in terms of media spotlight, and I think she's doing an excellent job, especially considering her age as well. But Emma Raducanu is a great example of someone who desperately needs coaching. And not because she needs to get better at tennis, but because you need that outside perspective. I'm not entirely sure she's quite capable, or that anyone is quite capable. This is not singling her out at all, of doing it all themselves. Kyrgios is no exception either. He is a wonderfully talented player. If he'd had a coach, maybe maybe he'd have won Wimbledon, not just gotten to the final.
Yeah, I think that is the point. Yeah, like him saying that he coached himself to a Wimbledon final, but like, could it have been even better with the coach? That's a great point.
Andy Murray is his coach.
God.
Who said that?
Then he can go on roller coaster rides with him again. His little buddy, little touring buddy.
Oh yeah, it'd be like work away days, wouldn't it?
Yeah, let us know kind of your guys' thoughts on kind of like how much of an impact you think coaching has. Like, let us know kind of your own experiences. Maybe you've had a period of time where you haven't had coaching, and then you've had a period of time where you have had a little bit, and like what kind of difference that's made. Could Kyrgios have done even better with a coach?
Yes.
Yeah, let us know kind of your stories and your perspective on that, and we'll be interested to see what people are saying. Please don't say coaches are useless, because then we'll be out of a job.
I think we've proved that in this call. We argued that we're not useless. Hopefully.
Yeah, that was the only point of this podcast, was just to say that like we need the job, and the job is valuable. Like, please don't kick me out.
please don't think coaching is useless.
I've worked so hard.
What have we done? What have we done, man?
Anyway, obviously, if you have enjoyed this, give us a follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. Like it, share it around, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next one for, I don't know, maybe it'll be a debate or head-to-head, something like that. We'll see how we go.